I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're sharing an incredible journey, a journey of resilience and one of determination as well with Terri Spitzer. She has written a powerful book. It is called My Complicated Yet Wonderful Life. Born with boundless energy and a love for sports over dolls, this author navigated through life's hurdles with an unparalleled work ethic. Despite facing a life-threatening disease, support from loved ones, and a relentless drive led her to a fulfilling career in healthcare, proving that making a difference is more valuable than any wealth. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Terri, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Your life is wonderful. Your life is complicated. Tell us a little bit about the complicated part of it. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
I think the biggest challenge is growing up, everything came naturally to me. And I was very interested in learning as much as I could and doing everything as well as I could, both athletically and academically. I have an older brother that was 6 years older than I was, and an older sister that was 5. And they weren't that interested in school, but I couldn't wait to get to school. And I wanted to learn as much as I could and do as many things as I could just because it was there and it fascinated me. I was lucky to grow up having great grandparents even. And I learned a lot from being with them and them telling their stories about what life was like for them. I tended to gravitate more towards adults than kids because the adults were, the things they were doing were more interesting and just really caught my eye a lot more. Yeah. And once I got into school, I had a great teacher that believed in me and taught me how to believe in myself. And so when I finished first grade, I knew I was going to college. I love working with people. Elementary school went fine with everything. It was in the middle of 7th grade that I started noticing endurance, and everything seemed just harder. Everything was more of an effort to do, both physically and cognitively. It didn't come so easy as it did before. And it was just so much more of a struggle, and I couldn't figure out why. So I would push myself even harder, and that didn't seem to help. And we couldn't figure out what was going on because that was not me. I was always very active and very involved in doing things. And I loved doing it. But all of a sudden, everything was so much harder. And then I started developing some sores that wouldn't heal. And finally, they did some blood work and determined that there really was something wrong with me, because people around me would say, "Oh, you're just not trying hard enough," or you're being lazy. And that wasn't like me. So when they took the blood work and they found out that there really was something wrong with me, when the doctors told me that I had leukemia, I was elated. It's like, yes, there is something wrong with me. I'm not faking it. So I was just glad to know that there is something wrong. And from that point, it was a matter of, okay, now let's move forward and learn how to get through this.
Yeah.
And I had a
Exactly.
very
Before it was a
supportive family.
mystery, you didn't know what was wrong, you're not feeling well, and there's no explanation. Now you at least had an explanation, an
Right,
enemy
right,
that you could combat, that you could fight, that you could overcome, right?
right, right. And family support and friend support was made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly when one is ill, they need all the
Yes.
love, all the help, all the concern, all the care they can possibly get from their family members, that's for sure. So your health struggles were first diagnosed when you were how old?
I was 12 years old. It was
Wow.
1975.
Yeah.
And when they told me what I had, they said, we have no cure for this. With this will be treated with it as research. And they gave me the statement that I had less than a 10% chance of living 6 months,
Amazing.
which they were numbers, but it was like that wasn't going to hold me back.
Yeah.
And basically, the way they did it is they would choose a certain group of medications, the chemotherapy, and if that didn't work, then they would switch over and try something else.
Yeah.
And then once you went into remission, they did 3 weeks of massive doses of radiation to the head, because again, it was all research.
Right.
And they had said, this down the line, this will cause some other form of cancer or something, but it's all we have to treat the leukemia now.
Yeah.
And it did end up, I've ended up developing brain tumors that it continued to grow. But overall, I got past the first stage and was able to do that. And so it was a matter of, okay, this is what they set in front of you. Now we've got to get through it.
Yeah.
And what they did is with the chemotherapy, they would always test your blood levels before they gave you. And if your blood levels were good, they would increase the dose of the medication, which also increased the side effects of the medication. But it was just something you just did.
Yeah. It's something it was a set of cards you didn't want to be dealt, but you were.
Right.
Your healthcare struggles. You were basically a guinea pig for the doctors who were trying to figure out any way to save your life. There were terrible side effects and consequences that were unintended. But here you are, decades later, alive and well and able to tell your story, right?
If I get to next year, it will be 50 years since I was diagnosed.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, we're glad that you've made it this half century, longer than that. Tell us, did your interest in becoming a healthcare professional begin when you were involved in the healthcare system so closely?
Yes. I thought, what I initially wanted to do is become a doctor, but I knew with all the medication and stuff, that wasn't a possibility. Right. So I would enter the healthcare field in a different way.
Right.
So I became a therapist, and my first job was at Spalding Rehab Hospital, where I worked physical therapist, occupational speech therapist. I learned a great deal of how they worked. And then I would incorporate my therapy with the individuals, including what they were doing. So we would kind of combine, because what they would do is like the physical therapy would walk the person up and down the hall.
Yeah.
And what I was able to do is we'd go to the mall. And so they were used to see the distractions, to see if they could still, stay to the protocol of, how they're supposed to be walking and weight bearing status and things like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of got the fun part,
Yeah.
as far as, and when I met the patients, I would say, you already know what you can't do.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to show you what you can do, and we're going to keep going.
Yeah. And you'd been in the trenches, you knew what it was all about, you knew what it took to be a fighter, a survivor, and to get past the illness. So I'm sure the patients that you worked with were blessed to have you as their therapist, that's for sure. Before we leave you today, I just want to ask you, what do you hope the folks from home take away from your book?
Inspiration, that you don't give up, that to hold on to the support systems you've got, those are essential. That made the big difference, because having someone hold you up and be behind you and helping you get through all this, and
Absolutely.
recognizing that it was difficult, them not knowing exactly what I was experiencing, but their support made a great deal of difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank goodness you've come this far. You're doing great, and you've been able to share your determination and your joy of life with others. The name of the book is My Complicated Yet Wonderful Life. It is written by Terri Spitzer. It's an inspirational memoir. It's a story of a young girl who is struck with an illness at a tender age, and there are unintended side effects and consequences that come from her treatment. But despite all of that, she builds a wonderful life, much like George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. And if we keep our positive attitude, if we keep on fighting, if we refuse to be put down, sometimes we can persevere, most of the time. Terri,
Right.
thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
Truly a pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.